Welcome to Ask Caleffi, the podcast that dives into real-life problems that plumbing and HVAC technicians face in the field. We're your hosts from the Cleffy Tech Support Team. I'm Greg Tubbs.
And I'm Dan Furcus. Welcome. We look forward to sharing some stories from our tech calls and using our background and expertise to make your days a little easier.
Hey there, welcome back to the Ask Caleffi podcast. We're coming at you live from my basement. Not kidding.
No, you're not.
We had a little building remodel, we'll just say, going on, and the podcast has now been moved to my basement while we work remote. So if there's any audio qualities, we apologize up front, but I think you should sound pretty crispy clear.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll do all right. Welcome back, everybody.
So today, our guest is our esteemed colleague, Woody Dickinson. How we doing, Woody?
Doing really well.
Yeah, Woody's the man behind the scenes that, it creates and puts together all the tech brochures and installation instructions that you guys see out in the field and the engineers work off when they're specifying our equipment.
Yeah. So
you also have another big hand in a project here, Woody, and that's our BIM software.
That's correct. BIM is a big part of where we're going these days, and we'll explore that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a good topic because it's something that's becoming more and more prevalent. We get phone calls in from engineers or even in some cases contractors that are using BIM and looking for, a file or just wanting to know more about it. So,
yeah, and admittedly, we'll probably learn a lot today as well.
Absolutely.
This.
So
I might too.
So what exactly is BIM?
BIM is in short building information modeling, and it's an intelligent 3D modeling based process. It gives architecture, engineering, and construction professionals the insight and the tools where they can efficiently plan, design, construct, and manage buildings. It's also a foundation of what's going on now, long underway, a big time in the AEC industry. It's a digital transformation underway for several years now.
Okay, is this something that they use on kind of in the planning stages of a project?
Exactly. BIM is a process for creating and managing information on a construction project throughout its whole life cycle. As part of this process, a coordinated digital description of every aspect of the building is developed.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's actually a process supported by a lot of different various tools, technologies, and the contracts involving the generation and management of digital representations of physical and functional characteristics of buildings. It's kind of cool, actually. It's kind of space age, if you want to call it that. But building information models are computer files which can be extracted, exchanged, and or networked to support decision making. And by individuals and businesses, they'll use the BIM software, such as the well-recognized Autodesk Revit, to plan, design, construct, operate, and even maintain buildings.
Okay, are they able to bring together, different mechanicals through the BIM process?
Yes. As we'll talk about later, possibly is that this is a common platform for various trades and roles in the building process to kind of center on and discuss and design the building.
Sure. So everybody from the HVAC installation crew to electricians, plumbers, everybody can get in this and use it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay. So if I'm a contractor, looking at it from a contractor perspective, why is this important to me?
Well, contractors, they're using BIM more and more. I'm learning that all the time here. As Greg had mentioned, even you're getting calls from contractors with BIM sort of questions. They use Revit models to coordinate the on-site trades that detect clashes. That's a big part of it, which I'll explain real quickly. That's to make sure that you don't have stuff bumping into each other when you're installing pipe and so forth. They sequence phases. They improve office to field efficiency, quality assurance, and quality control. The contractor either receives directly from the architect or the engineer the project information. That includes the three-dimensional BIM drawings. And then the contractors need the software to read and use it. So people, everybody needs to know about how to use the software, and in order to communicate and use it and read it and use it. The contractor sometimes contractors do operate in a design build mode, of course, and they will have inside staff that's sufficiently trained on this to develop their own 3D drawings, as the building owners are now demanding BIM drawings for continuous use. I'll digress a little bit here, and you're starting to see in the media a little bit about digital twins. So what this is that you got a building, and then you got a twin to the building, which is the electronic model. And so they're able to assess things and just manage the building by having an exact twin of it, but in electronic form.
So what you're saying is things have really come a long way from the old paper print and just looking at it and going, yeah, we got to put it in here somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
It almost seems to me like, Greg and I both come out of the contractor world, and what mechanical room is ever big enough?
Never. They're never ever big enough.
So it almost seems like from a planning aspect, you could go in and take a mechanical room and lay out your mechanics and your piping and your system layouts just to ensure that you're going to actually have enough room on site to get that done.
I've even got a real life story for you. Some of these contractors, they're actually developing building modules, such as a boiler room, like you said, off-site in a controlled environment using Revit. So, and then they basically build it. They set it on a truck, and they truck it to the site, and with booms and whatever, they drop it in, they place it into place in the building.
Wow.
We have a great example of this, and they won't mind me mentioning them, but Bob Harvey Contracting in Bozeman, Montana does this.
Yeah.
And they have an offshoot firm called Allied BIM that does this work for them. So we've been involved with them to do that. In fact, we've got some video feed that we're utilizing in various media to show an example of a finished room versus what it looked like in Revit.
Boy, you talk about efficiency. If you can lay that out and build that in a controlled environment where your guys aren't driving to job sites and carrying their tools in and out every day and looking for materials and having materials lost on site, you can build it almost in a shop or
controlled environment.
Yeah. And haul it to the site. I mean, you've probably take a lot of wasted time out of the project, from getting materials there versus pulling them from bins in your shop, to time hauling tools in and out of the project where you can set up and build and then just take the material out.
Right. See, the contractors use that Revit, just like you said, to speed up the construction process and detect errors even at the early stages. So they need that three-dimensional vision in order to test the structure. So it's a phenomenal space-aged way to do your buildings.
Yeah,
sure.
I could see where, when you look at scheduling as well, having the ability to build that and warehouse it and take it on site when it's needed versus trying to build it on site when the room is ready for you. I mean, you kind of have the system done and built before the mechanical room could even be built.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Let's talk about the software required. Like, we'll get phone calls into tech support. They want to find a Revit file or a BIM file, and we go and look at it, and they just ask us, hey, can you open it and just look at it and tell me what this is? Mm-hmm. I can't do that because I don't have that software. What can you tell us about the type of software that's required for this?
Well, BIM and Revit are really kind of almost the same thing, but not. Okay. BIM software is three-dimensional design and modeling software that can help optimize the work of designing for architecture, construction, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical projects. That's, in short, MEP. It does this by helping make better design decisions and improve building performance. But the big name in the industry for the actual software, which is See, BIM, if you think of this, BIM is a big thing, a lot of different things, as I've mentioned before. But then inside of BIM, in order to operate with BIM, you have to have it like a branded software like Microsoft Excel or Word or whatever. Well, the specific, there's several different brands of it, but the big name is Autodesk Revit. They are by far the industry leader. They are the Revit is a BIM software widely used to create unified models that are all disciplines and trades can use to complete their work. Autodesk Revit was created to support BIM. Okay, so Revit hosts the information that forms the model from which drawings, documents, and specifications are derived. In short, this software shows the building in 3D and all the contents, such as Cleffy valves and separators, that are also shown in 3D and carry inside of their models parametric information, which is much more than you see in regular CAD environments. So it's intelligent. So when you put a valve in there, like a Cleffy Z1 zone valve, you put it in there. Well, it contains information about that product inside of that file, that software, so that it can be referred to or whatever, or that information is actually utilized in some of the more sophisticated designs are actually, simulating flow through the building. And so there's delta P information and flow rate information inside these so that they can actually simulate the flows in the building.
So that's contained within the file.
Mm-hmm.
So once you have the software, where do you go to get these files or the drawings or information?
Well, the most trusted source, we were told, is the building product manufacturers, BPMs, like us. They're our website. So yeah, our website is where you can go get Cleffy. Also, most designers have also found fairly reputable web hosting sites to be a good source, usually with ways to organize and filter for efficient, quick sourcing of what they need. And among those several sites that host content are, we'll mention them. North American modelers use BIMsmith is one. ARCAT's another big one, and the sites where Cleffy can be found is not only on our website, where you can click inside each product web page and find and get to a BIM model. Cleffy can be found on bimobject.com and in mepcontent.com. So, it's kind of like Walmart, Target, that kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, there's a number of shelves out there that people like to go find their products and have reasons that they like them or whatever. So we're trying to be where they are so that they can get access to our product.
Okay, so even if they're not familiar with our site or where to get it on our site, it's still available through other hosting services.
Exactly. But just interestingly enough, Cleffy launched in February this year a dedicated BIM site. It's bim.cleffy.com. And if you go to our website, cleffy.com, inside of one of the web pages and you click on the BIM icon, it takes you to that. So we have a centralized site that can be either accessed via cleffy.com or directly straight to it. You can put that in your favorites or something. And but this new host site includes access to all North American product Revit files and schemes or systems. We're developing systems now with a very powerful search bar. And you get to that site from every product web page, like I said, in the Cleffy website or by going direct to it. So make a bookmark in your browser to make it easy and quick to access the entire Cleffy library. There you can find over 90 up-to-date North American Revit family files. Yes, 90. We just about got the catalog covered as far as every product in the catalog. Almost every one of them has a Revit family. And now we currently have 5 North American schemes or subsystem Revit project files, they're called. 2 are hydronic and 3 are plumbing. These offer a quick way to get started and include generic equipment models along with an appropriate array of Cleffy models.
So these schemes, they include like all the shutoff valves, all of our products, and maybe others?
Yes, other appropriate ones. Yeah. So, like for instance, the commercial plumbing scheme, it's got a water heater in it. Generic water heater. It's got sinks. It's got shower heads and the piping and the various Cleffy products that are utilized in there. And it's also got generic shutoff valves and other useful items in there. And an experienced user is going to see that, well, he can certainly place additional things in there, but it's a good starting point or a template for him to maybe have the stuff already collected into one site. All these items would be collected into a browser that they have there, and then they can basically duplicate them, put them in different places, or they can add to them or whatever. So an experienced user would know how to start from there.
Sure. This program sounds pretty neat and pretty interesting. How difficult is it to use?
Well, that's a good question. It all depends on your level of skill in using the BIM software. Cleffy is continually working on developing, updating, and improving essential tools for the engineer to design and specify those commercial MEP system. This starts, of course, with how to find the BIM content, as I just mentioned, with a variety of websites where you can find the content. I'd have to say that most of our industry partners offering all varieties of HVAC equipment, boilers, water heaters, radiators, they all provide BIM content on their websites and in the various host sites as well. So finding content today should be rather easy for most designers. In fact, personal aside here, I recently built several sample Revit project systems, and I found Google actually to be a real good resource as well. So just putting in Google, and they'll find them in those other sites. So good old Google is pretty much everybody's go-to anyway.
Yeah, all else fails, you just Google it, even if it's wrong.
Yeah. So it almost sounds like once you have the product families and products that you're comfortable working with, and you have those files downloaded and saved into your program, it's probably pretty easy to build system over system and click on those and move them into place within your building model.
It's not exactly as simple as copy and paste, but there is a procedure. One thing about Revit is it's kind of an unusual language. It doesn't follow the rules of Microsoft or anything like that. So there's a little bit of a different language you have to kind of get used to. And believe me, there's plenty of opportunity out there to take training courses and whatnot, and people are in fact doing that, So, you can build your own library. The only danger with a caution with building a library is you want to make sure you're keeping things up to date. And I've had engineering users tell me that, well, they're basically, always on guard for making sure that if there's something they're using a lot of, they'll always plug into the source of that to make sure that they've got the up-to-date model,
Sure. So you're constantly improving on it and changing things as it goes.
Right. Well, I can tell you for Cleffy, and on that regards, just to tell you about the Cleffy models that we've spent a lot of time and effort to make sure they're good. We've got files that are natively modeled in Revit to obtain the highest quality and meet or exceed the Autodesk standards, and they are actually certified with real-time technical product data for proper interoperability. They're data rich, they've had recent updates, and have respectable file sizes that Revit users expect. So they offer system integration in Revit with properly connected components that allow engineers to make informed decisions about the products they're using. They also allow the use of calculating functions, as I've mentioned. For instance, flow and pressure drop data with just the right amount of information and parameters that are delivered in a user-friendly file size, or what we call very low weight. We aim for them to be less than 2 megabytes in size while delivering the power that they do. So
that's a pretty big deal to know the flow and pressure drop through a device.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then the other thing that's coming up recently is that recent models we now provide easily selectable options within Revit. Essentially, it's a complete catalog for the product. And now we're also including Revit content instruction guides that are embedded in the Revit file itself that can also be downloaded from the Cleffy.com webpage and also from the BIM.Cleffy.com page. So we've put the time into creating instruction guides, if you will, that basically show a user what's available inside the product without having to discover it themselves or misdiscovering it because they don't know what's there. Our quest is to make sure that they're of the best usability for the purposes.
Cool.
All right. So, thinking back to my days in the field, and Greg, probably same for you, this isn't something that I had experience with.
No, none at all.
And I'll tell you, reflecting back on that, I can really see the value of the BIM models and how that could have simplified my life in the field.
Well, I can basically say that Cleffy Revit files are becoming even more powerful now with all the available options, even those separately purchased, like the 2930 isolation valves we now have. They can be selected within the file itself. I have a designer call these newer Revit files literally a complete catalog for the product. An accomplished Revit user does not have to worry about looking elsewhere for available options when they can be seen and selected inside the file itself and included in the output schedules for downstream purchasing by contractors. Our builder of the Revit families tell us that the BIM content they build for Cleffy has flow rate limits and other things built in to facilitate easy design and selection based on initial space considerations. For instance, someone is alerted if they are exceeding the flow rate, for instance, for a particular manifold, say in Revit, and they can then place a couple of them side by side if needed.
So that's interesting. So
yeah, it is, because
that
you're protecting themselves from making the wrong product selection.
Right. Yeah, it has the ability to jump in there and correct them from that wrong selection. You're right, Greg. It's almost a problem solver in that aspect.
An error detector, to correct it before it gets past the point where you can't. So anyway, that's the beauty of it.
Wonderful. So BIM is doing more than just helping you design the project and lay it out. It's making sure everything is correct in sizing. It will fit there physically, and it allows you to pretty much not 100% fully pre-assemble the entire job, but it really gets you very much ready to go there and install the job.
Yeah, help you meet your schedules.
Exactly.
Well, cool. Well, I think we got some pretty
interesting.
Yeah, we got some very eye-opening information about BIM and what it can do.
Yeah, thanks for coming on with us, Woody. We appreciate that.
Totally.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for tuning in. If you ever need help,
please feel free to contact our tech support team anytime at techsupport.us@Caleffi.com.
or call us during our business hours at 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central Time at 414-238-2360.